I have been with Faith in Action since before we started. I was part of the original steering committee. We launched in 2015 as a coalition of congregations, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Unitarian, who were all recognizing that our faith traditions call us to do justice. And that's the kind of thing that we can't do as individual people of faith, and we can't even do that as individual congregations. We need to come together in larger coalitions. And in this community, it was really important for us that we came together as both city and county congregations. Very often our local infrastructure doesn't communicate with each other, but as people of faith, when we're bringing a moral voice and a path toward justice for our civic leaders, we want them to work together, city and county, to address important concerns, whether it's criminal justice reform or local justice for immigrant neighbors or affordable housing.
So our campaign committee usually goes by 3 goals. One, that we're creating systemic change in both Harrisonburg City and Rockingham County. The second, that it is something that will impact those who need affordable housing in our community. And the third being, it is something that we can achieve. And I believe what we're doing with our affordable housing campaign this year is going accordingly to those 3 things. 3 asks that we've come up with for our campaign this year. We would like the county and city to administer and fund a housing trust fund. There would be dedicated funds toward the housing trust fund. And the third being that there would be a housing committee that would administer how the housing trust fund would work. And that would be comprised of civic leaders, of service providers, and the community at large, especially those who are diverse in our community, because that is a reflection of what our community is.
I've lived in Harrisonburg, Virginia for roughly 40-some years. I did live in Tidewater for 12 years after going to Old Dominion University and moved back here to raise my family. Initially, I moved in with my mom because everything was so expensive. Because of the college and student housing and things like that, it wasn't feasible. Being a single parent on a one income, it was just easier for me to stay with my mom and my dad and just save up some money so I could get a place. A lot of the places, they want students so they can charge for the room, so it's more expensive. And then the places that were for affordable housing, their waiting list was like for a year, 2 years. I can laugh because I had signed up for affordable housing through the redevelopment years ago. And I have since been married, divorced, had another child. I got a call from them asking if I was still looking, and I laughed because I'm already in a place, and it had been 5 years, 6 years. Being a single black mom, and I was diagnosed with MS, so, and having physical mobility challenges, I wasn't being paid enough to match the rent, nor was I able to obtain a job where I could receive that pay to get it. And then you think about with JMU, the number of kids that come down here from other cities, their parents are making, they're wealthy, so they can afford to pay these $1,500, $1,200, $2,000 a month rent, whereas someone like myself, I am unable to. It's been a challenge just to find places that do accommodate somebody with a mobility challenge, and finding something on one level that's, something that has the parking available. Right now I'm going through the thing with the place where I'm living now about them getting a handicap, because people will park in the spot closest to my place, and there's nothing I can do about it, and I still have to, push through it. So it's a pain.
I had been homeless on and off for many years. And my daughter and I really struggled to try to find a way to afford a home, and we just couldn't do it. And because of health issues that I had, I was unable to continue working as a massage therapist because it was too physical for me to do. And of course, getting older didn't help it either. In 2009, we had relocated down here, and my husband and I had built a home in Elkton, and for whatever reason, he chose to abandon us. He abandoned our home. He stopped paying bills. He just, basically it said he was going to find his own way. I lost everything. I lost my home. I lost my vehicle. I lost my credit rating. I just, and here I was raising a child by myself, and she was a teenager at the time, struggling on and off on a retirement that was lower than par. It was very difficult for me to find a way to find an affordable home, raise a daughter on my own without any kind of assistance, and provide for us. And something had to go, and unfortunately, it was a place to live. Katie and I ended up living in our vehicle eventually. We had gone to shelters, but you can only stay in a shelter for a limited amount of time. And of course, they're not the most ideal situations anyway. So she and I ended up living in our car. In 2016, my daughter and I applied for Section 8 housing. We were on that list for a very, very long time. In 2017, my daughter and I were hit head-on by a drunk driver, and my car was totaled and my daughter was killed. I was the only one to walk away from the accident. That I was contacted by the housing authority I had gone in after the accident and altered my application from having a household of 2 to just myself. But it wasn't until 2018 that I was called in to be interviewed for housing. Then that was August, and I think in October is when I was finally approved, and I had to find a place to live that was accepted. And of course, you have certain limitations. You can only make a certain amount of money in a household, and you qualify for certain places. And it's very difficult. Those places are not available in this area. I was very, very blessed because I was able to find a place in Broadway. Very nice, very good area. We started in, I think, February of 2016. And it wasn't until 2018, December of 2018, that I was able to move. So it is just a long process. If you're not making any money, if you have health issues, like for example, I have cancer, and I am undergoing 6 months of chemotherapy. If I did not have my home to go to, if I had to live out on the streets in my car in a shelter, there's no way I would be able to do this treatment and feel good and allow it to do its job. I just don't think that I could.
Over the last year and a half, I worked with a mom of 2 small children, school age, and she came to Harrisonburg because she had people that were close to her that had settled here and had an opportunity to work, and so she came to the States and then found her way to our town. The reason that she came was not one variable, but several. Work, schooling, safety. So she found it to be an okay place. She stayed with a friend to begin with, and another friend. She ended up in our school district, and that's how I came to know her. And then the difficulties started kind of rolling, in the sense that she had a job opportunity, but then childcare was an issue. And then if childcare wasn't an issue, then the appointments were an issue, and transportation to the appointments were an issue. So things that are simple to the majority of us, to get in our car, take our kids to school, go to work, What makes it hard for this mom to find affordable housing is the knowledge of the system. A small crash course on what credit means, on what references means, on things that most of us have learned to keep phone numbers and keep employment history and things that are just part of what we know we need to have as we move forward. She started from zero here, so first of all, there was none of that history established locally. But second, even when she was living her life, she wasn't gathering all this information in the way that the system expects you to provide all that information. And so some of it is just knowledge of how things work. Another variable important one would be transportation. So in order to scope out where you want to live, you need to go see places, and so she didn't really have, or she depended on others and what others knew of places where you can go find an apartment. So keeping affordable housing, the most important aspect of that for this mom in particular was income. And so she is really eager to work, and she is obviously a very hard worker. But in putting in 12 to 14 hours in a poultry plant that it was actually not local, she had to have a ride. From her paycheck, she was paying childcare and transportation to work, working these many amounts of hours, coming back home, trying to figure things out for her kids and family and do it all over again. The days when her children needed, if they were sick or needed special attention, because in fact, throughout this process, there was evaluation for special education services, and that is another important point. I think that many families that we see have issues with housing, there's so many other variables that accompany that, and so disability is definitely a big one. And so imagine in all this process of trying to go to work and find stable housing, having to undergo evaluation for a child that may have special needs was really time consuming, and so she had to take time off work, and every time she took time off work was with the poultry plant's a point system, and so she lost her job, I think 3 times. That fluctuation of income was very difficult, and so there was no way she could rent a place independently, and so she went back into sharing a place and subletting, and that probably will continue to be her situation for a little while. I think things have improved a bit, but that's definitely a major barrier.
There just aren't enough organizations or local government to help provide for these families and these people that are struggling. And it's not just those who are homeless. It's like the secretary that might work for the city, or a retail person working so hard every day, but yet their salary does not afford them a place to live on their own. That is so tragic, because it's like, why are they working? To what good is that doing? That's not providing them a home. They're just existing. So they have to live with friends or whatever, and not a perfect environment, and not in a place of their own. So it's sad. It's not just for homeless, but it's for anybody trying to find some place that they're going to be comfortable and safe in their surroundings, but they can't. So they have to either settle, or they just don't get what they need.
According to Virginia homelessness statistics, as of 2018, more than 18,000 students experience homelessness on any given day. And according to the 2020 census, about 22% of people experiencing homelessness are children. So affordable housing is without a doubt critical, not to just society, but to schooling. Having a child come to school when they haven't slept well properly, when they haven't had a bath in a place that is appropriate for a child. Expecting them to learn is, it's unrealistic sometimes. We can keep them safe, for sure, and loved and cared for, and present information to them, but the learning is not quite there.
One of my favorite scriptures is the one where Jesus says, "How can you say you love me who you've never seen and hate your brother who you see every day?" Simple and plain. God created us all, and He don't make mistakes. That's what I have to, think about every day when I'm falling and upset. God didn't make mistakes. God bless you.